today, everyone. Philosophy of to become reality. Before we open the book of Marxist theory, let us first talk about its history. So who is Karl Heinrich Marx? Karl Heinrich Marx was a Prussian philosopher, economist, journalist, and revolutionary. He was born on May 5, 1818 in Prussia, known as Germany today. He has played a great role in the development of socialist ideology. He notably wrote the Communist Manifesto in 1848, a widely acclaimed as paramount pamphlet in the annals of sociologist movement. Along with Friedrich Engels, he used his pen to contribute to the basis of the body of thoughts and belief known as Marxism by writing the most important movement book, Das Kapital. The collective writings of Marxist and Engels serves as the beginning of Marxism philosophy. Marx asserts to believe that philosophy of to become reality. Now proceeding to his co-author, Friedrich Engels was a German sociologist who was Karl Marx's co-author in creating modern communism. They collaborated on the Communist Manifesto in the year 1848. And after Marx, Engels took on editing duties for the later volumes of Das Kapital. However, on the 200th anniversary of Engels' birth, some folks trying to downplay his role in Marxism. Critics from European authors says he messed with Capital, but their proof is lacking. What they all seem to agree on it is not liking the idea of Marxism as a solid theory or tool for working class to fight for a better society.
Okay, so let's proceed to the other proponents of Marxism. First is George Lukács, year of 1885 to 1971. George Lukács was a Hungarian aesthetician and philosopher. He was essential to the growth of Western Marxism, which encompasses a broad range of Marxist thinkers from Western and Central Europe. Okay, so Marxist is the West reject to the teachings of the Soviet Union, which emphasize the abstract and philosophical aspects of Marxism about the importance of economic analysis. Unlike many Soviet thinkers of his era, Lukács rejected the inevitability of revolution because he believed that it had to be conscious and creative process rather than being dogmatic and coercive. His book History and Class Consciousness, published in the year 1923, advocated a more humanist approach to class struggle in contrast to the authoritarian Soviet model. Naturally, this was too reactionary a conception for the Comintern to accept. Lukács was thus accordingly disciplined and forced to offer a public recantation. Okay, so next is Leon Trotsky, year of 1879 to 1940. Okay, so he wrote the Literature of Revolution in the year of 1923, which was originally published by the Soviet government and contributed to the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics' contemporary discussion regarding the culture and art within the worker state. The debate over the Stalinist conception of social realism was anticipated to be future discourse of the latter part of the decade. Okay, last is Louis Althusser in the year of 1918 to 1980. During the 1970s, the English translation of Althusser's Reading Capital in the year of 1965 for Marxists played a crucial role in shaping Marxist discourse in the English-speaking region.
Marxist theory. Back in the feudal days, it was all about the drama between the feudal lords and the regular folks, which are the peasants. The industrial age and the showdown switch gears now. It was the capitalist class known as the bourgeoisie and against the lucrative industrial working class or the proletariats. This literary theory aims to reveal and interpret injustice in society. Marxism wants to show how the rich and privileged lives a comfortable life while the poor are exploited and treated unfairly.
Now for the basic principles of the Marxist criticism. First, to Marxism, literature belongs to the superstructure, which is a product of the base reality. In the base is the economy. There are three facets: the mode of production, or how commodities were produced under the society's economic system; the relation of production, or the relationship between the people involved in the production, like the relationship between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat; and the means of production, or everything that is needed to produce a product, like the tools, raw materials, machine, etc. Base is basically the economy, or everything that has something to do directly in the production. Whereas the superstructure is the social institutions that have nothing to do directly with the production, but it does not mean that it can stand alone. In the classical or orthodox Marxism, there is a one-way process wherein the base determines the superstructure. In that case, for Marxists, they believe that literature belongs to the superstructure, meaning everything that happens to the base shapes the literature. For example, if there is an exploitation to the base realities, it would definitely show in the literature. Second, Marxist criticism places a literary work within the context of class and assumptions about the class. Context about the class is the belief that throughout history, there have been two contending classes in every epoch, like in slavery system, the masters and the slaves; in feudalism, the feudal lord and the peasants; in the capitalism, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. The assumption about the class is that the masters, the feudal lords, and the bourgeoisie owns the means of productions, whereas the slaves, the peasants, and the proletariat carry out the production, but their produce is taken away by their exploiters, while they were just compensated with something enough for them to survive. Hence, a class struggle. This is the main focus of the Marxism, to represent the social class and the class conflict. The literature reflects ideas about these classes for the readers to see the roles that the various segments play in the plot. Third, Marxist analysis links literary works to the historical, cultural, and political context in which they are produced. Marxists do not regard literature as an entirely separated from the author and the influences that shape the author. Marxists approach literature, criticism, literary education, and theory not as a production of individual, but as an essential component of economic, political, and social life. Marxists link literature to the context of the reality from which it was produced. Next, ideologies such as the reality of class struggle do not usually show themselves clearly and directly in literary work. A critic should analyze less what a text says than what it does not say. Marx noted that the exploitation of workers was hidden. Thus, the task of the critic is to find it and put it in words, because most ideologies such as this are implicit in the literature. Marx developed the theory of surplus value to explain the exploitation of the capitalist society. According to the theory of surplus value, a worker is exploited if the value created by the worker is greater than the amount paid to them as a wage. The work done by the laborer is greater than the value paid to them. The difference is the profit of the capitalist. That is how they can be exploited, and usually it doesn't show itself in the text. Thus, more than what the text says, the critics should also analyze what it does not say but is present to the text. And lastly, dictatorship of the proletariat. So the state apparatus created by the bourgeoisie to oppress the proletariat will be taken over by the proletariat themselves. Now, the table will turn and the proletariat will use the state apparatus against the bourgeoisie.
Okay, let's now discuss the remaining tenets under the Marxist literary theory or criticism. First, we have here the critique of the capitalist society. Critique of the capitalist society, Marx attempted systematically to seek the structural causes behind what he saw as a system of capitalist exploitation and degradation, and to offer solutions in the spheres of economics and politics. As with all socialists, Marx's main objection to capitalism was that one particular class owned the means of economic production. The bourgeoisie has centralized means of production and has concentrated property in a few hands. The correlative of this is the oppression exploitation of the working classes. In proportion as the bourgeoisie capitalist is developed, in the same proportion is the proletariat. The modern working class developed a class of laborers who live only so long as they find work and who find work only so long as their labor increases capital. Okay, moving on, we have here is the division of labor. The division of labor, this model of superstructured economic base furnishes the form of Marx analysis of the state, class, ideology in terms of history and the division of labor. Marx traces various stages of this history, affirming that they are effectively different forms of ownership. In general terms, Marx argues the division of labor is an index of the extent to which production has been developed. It leads to separation of industrial and commercial from agricultural labor, hence conflict of interest between town and country. Last but not the least is the economic power. Economic power, according to Marx, is the moving force behind human history, is its economic systems. For people's lives are determined by their economic circumstances. A society, he says, is shaped by its force of production, the methods it's used to produce the material elements of life. The economic conditions underlying the society are called material circumstances, and the ideological atmospheres they generate is known as historical situation. This means that to explain any social or political context, any event or product, it is first necessary to understand or comprehend the material and historical circumstances in which they occur. So that's all for the tenets for the Marxist criticism.
Good day, so here are the guide questions that can be asked under Marxism. Number 1, what is the social class of the author? This simply tells on what does the author's social class. It's focused on association founded on comparable social characteristics such as occupation, wealth, income, and education. Second one is, which class does the word claim to represent? The extraordinarily affluent class of people who cherish prestige and familial relationships. The narrative makes a distinction between those who are just wealthy and those who are seen as the richest and most influential individuals in the nation. The third guide question is, what values that is reinforced? This simply means the values are given focus in a work or given in a show. Is it all about the political values, emotional values, and so on? The next guide question is, what values that is subvert? This time, it is about the values that are subverted in the release of the series or movie. What are the values that are subverted or more ignored? The fifth guide question is that, what conflict can be seen between the values, the work, champions, and those it portrays? At this point, it determines what kind of conflict the protagonist face in a movie in terms of the value of work, and so on, and what it wants to express to the viewers or the readers. So now, let us proceed to the sixth guide question. The sixth one is, what social classes do the characters represent? This is where the society of each character in the movie or in the works is determined or will be determined. The next one is that, how do characters from different classes interact or conflict? In this question, it is necessary to answer what method occurs in the fight or the conversation of each person in different states in that society. Next one, intentionally or not, capitalist, imperialist, or classicist value. Here, attention is paid and it is appropriate to address whether the work shows the idea of capitalist or classist or imperialist and whether it is intentional or not. Next, how might the work be seen as a critique of capitalism, imperialism, or classicism? Here, we aim to answer how a work or a movie showed criticism of capitalism, imperialism, and classicism. The 10th one is does the work in some ways support a Marxist agenda but in other ways? It can be said that the work is part of Marxism, which shows support in some ways to the Marxist agenda but in another way. So we should find out if it really has support for the Marxist agenda but in a different or in another way. So now let us proceed to the last 3 guide questions for Marxist view. Perhaps unintentionally support a capitalist, imperialist, or classist agenda. It simply means if there is a part of the work that supports or reflects the capitalist, imperialist, or classist agenda, perhaps it is unintentional. Next one is how does the literary work reflect, intentionally or not, the socio-economic conditions of the time in which it was written and or the time in which it is set? And what do those conditions reveal about the history of class struggle? In this question, what do the socio-economic circumstances of the historical periods in which literary works are situated and or were created disclose about the history of class struggle? How do these conditions manifest themselves in the work, whether consciously or unintentionally? The next one is all about how might the work be seen as a critique of organized religion. This is how or whether a work that critiques an organized religion is shown. If so, then it can be counted under Marxist theory or under Marxism. So that would be all for the guide questions for Marxism. Thank you.
In Time is a sci-fi thriller set in the future, where time is currency. People stop aging at 25 but must earn or still time to stay alive. The rich hoard time while the poor struggle to survive. The protagonist, Will Salas, receives a windfall of time and becomes a target of authorities. Teaming up with the wealthy heir Sylvia, they challenge the oppressive system aiming to bring about social change and equalize the distribution of time. In Time is a movie that focuses on the concept of time as currency. From the lens of Marxist approach, it resembles social inequality through scarcity of time as a resources in terms of social status and class, and inequality in the distribution of wealth or time. In the movie, the social environment is divided between people with most of the time or has century in their watch, who can live for as long as they want and can spend much as they wish. Those people are the one that belongs to the elite or the ruling class. On the contrary, individuals that belong to the working class tend to be poor and have minimal amount of time to live and for their spending. This reflects the real-world economic distinction. The Marxist idea of overthrowing the ruling class and establishing a more equitable society was seen in a part of the movie where the protagonist, Will Salas, made up his mind to take revenge for the injustice and cruel system they have. So they fight for the right that everyone must have equal time to live. So this shows the dictatorship of the proletariat. In this movie, it shows that poor people are deprived of their right to live, for they just have limited time to live after they turn 25 years old. So they need to work hard to gain time and to survive for their daily basis. Also, expenses increase rapidly for no reason,
And what's worse is that people choose to, some people choose to do illegal things like robbery or stealing, and some do beggings or become beggars. Thus, it shows a crystal view that poor people are just a mere tool for production that can benefit the ruling class. In the movie, time is vital. It is where people's life depends. It's like an oxygen to them. For them, without it, they're gone too. And the film also justified and critiqued the prevalent issue of societal isolation or the discrimination between social classes that leads to societal resistance. It is also an example of capitalist society where the notion of exploitation exists. Thus, the theory of surplus value emerged to explain this notion. As we watch the movie, the ideology of exploitation shows multiple times. First is when Will go to work on time but ends up being underpaid. Second is when the coffee price increased in just a day, and as well as the bus fare. In addition, there's also the delayed distribution of time and the loan that has an unfair interest. This exploitation was set by the bourgeoisie or the elites for their own gain and to force the people from the working class to do the job for them. However, the wages that the working class receive are less than what they have been working for. Overall, In Time emphasizes the Marxist theme in various aspects. First, we have economic inequality, in which rich can accumulate time while the poor struggles to survive. Second, the class struggles. It is the division between the wealthy who has the abundance of time and the poor who live day to day that exemplifies the Marxist idea of class struggles. So this narrative explores the consequences of this disparity and the challenges faced by those without sufficient time. And lastly, we have the exploitation. So it is where the elite in the film can effectively control the labor and the lives of the less privileged one by manipulating the access to time. So this parallelism of Marxist notion of exploitation, where the ruling class exploits the working class for economic gain. In addition, it shows that Marxism has set aside the moral perspective of the person.
Elysium is a 2013 sci-fi film set in a dystopian future, exploring class disparity with Earth's impoverished population yearning for access to a luxurious space habitat called Elysium. The protagonist, played by Matt Damon, Max Da Costa, embarks on a mission to bring equality by accessing Elysium's advanced medical technology. Elysium Analysis. Elysium is a futuristic science fiction movie exploring socio-economic unfairness and the disadvantages of over-reliance to technology in a dystopian future or in a dystopian dim. The movie is set in 2154 where two societal classes are gravely distant as few elites are staying in a space city called Elysium, while the people of poverty are left on Earth to live a polluted and overcrowded life. Social inequality is obviously depicted in this movie as the strong intangible separation between the very few rich people and the overpopulated humanity on Earth. This reflects the real-life situation in the matter of income inequality and access to resources. Also, the healthcare privileges are limited only to the citizens of Elysium. Elysium's medbay is a clear proof that social division when it comes to healthcare, the poor cannot access enough. The technological advancement as well is a disadvantage for the people on Earth as this is used to control the people and substitutes to the military. This and many more like environmental issues, political allegory, activism, and resistance are well defined in the movie, obviously qualifying for the Marxist theory.
So now I'm going to report about the analysis on the movie Snowpiercer. So Snowpiercer is the post-apocalyptic film about the global freezing of the world, and it traces that serves as the refuge for the remaining survivors became the new word in the catastrophic event. It was rooted in creating a new class system for the survivors. Those in the first part of the train are the ruling class, while those on the tail end are the lower class. In addition, the ruling class is the authority. They are the ones who control the mechanical system, the train, the function, and the ones who impose the rules for the lower class to strictly abide and conform to. But they do it oppressively. Because of the authoritarian ruling, they also control the population by killing a number of the lower classes to maintain the equilibrium of the resources. This depicts class struggles. For Marx, class struggle states that throughout history, there have been two contending classes in every epoch. In the slavery system, they were the masters and slaves. For the feudalism, the feudal lords and the peasants. In the capitalism, the bourgeois and the proletariat. It also states that the ruling class is the owner of the production, while the working class or lower is the one who carries out the production. But their produce is taken away by the exploiters, and in return, they are just given just enough for their survival. Although there is no material production in the film, the trade and the other resources given to the lower class serves as the production. On the other hand, the ruling class in the movie are the exploiters themselves. In order for the lower class to live, they must conform to the authoritarian and oppressive ruling system for them to survive. Further, the slavery and oppression serves as a wake-up call for them to create a revolution led by Curtis by controlling the perpetual motion of the train by going to the very first part of the train. These revolutions are an example of the concept of the dictatorship of the proletariat, which states that the state apparatus created by the bourgeois to oppress the proletariat will be taken over by the proletariat themselves. Now the table will be turned and the proletariat will use the state apparatus against the bourgeois. Here, the state apparatus na film is the train in the perpetual motion, and that through the revolution by the lower class, once it was taken over, the tables will turn to them, which in the end of the film, it is a bittersweet ending that Curtis is able to control the train, but it causes a huge avalanche because of the improvised explosion in order to save the others and causes the obliteration of the train. So, in conclusion, the movies Elysium, Snowpiercer, and In Time successfully satisfies or depicts the tenets or the principles under the Marxist criticism or the Marxist literary theory. They both show the class division, class struggle, and also the dictatorship of the proletariat. First, let us discuss what is the class division. So, all of the movies show the upper and the lower class, especially the huge social and economic gap and also the social environment they are living. In the movie Elysium, the lower class live on the planet Earth while the upper class live on the planet Elysium. Here, in the planet Earth, many people are dying because of the low healthcare services, while the bourgeois in the Elysium is that they live very harmoniously and also prosperous because of the advanced technological and medical healthcare they're providing, that even the gruesome diseases will be cured easily, while those people on Earth have low healthcare services wherein only just aid that can be applied on. While in the movie Snowpiercer, the upper class live on the first part of the train because it is a post-apocalyptic movie about the global freezing of the world, while in the tail end is the lower class. Here in the first part of the train, this is where all the resources can be found, and also this is where it's just a new world wherein this is where there is where all the upper classes live very lavishly, extravagant, and also even the services, they are the ones who are just being benefited on. While the tail end, the place that they are living is very filthy and also it's very unconducive. And also in the movie In Time, the people here, the upper class live in the place called New Greenwich and the lower class live on Dayton. And also there is also this divide because none of them cannot go to that specific place, or there is a rule that the lower class cannot go to the to the place of the upper class. In Elysium, those the people on earth cannot go to Elysium. If they do, they will be killed. Same as in the Snowpiercer, that the lower class must be on the tail end and cannot go to the first part of the train. And also in the in time, the people in the Dayton or the lower class must stay in Dayton and must not go to the new Greenwich, which is the place for the upper class. And second is the class struggle. So in the class struggle, it shows the oppression, the exploitation, and the degradation of the upper class to the lower class. For example, in Elysium, here the advanced medical services is only given to the people, to the rich people in Elysium, while the people on earth are not given the advanced or the right medical services that they are need, especially during the time in the earth. Gruesome diseases is now the very prominent and dominant issues that the world is facing, which comes to an apocalypse. Second, in the Snowpiercer, here, despite the self-goal, the ruling class is the authoritarian, or is not the one who impose the rules, and also the lower class must conform and must abide to it. Here, the oppression here is that once they be defiant or disobey the law, they will be killed, and also they will be also punished, whether whether what your gender is, whether if you're an old or young person, you will be also killed. And also, they are just given only a specific resource, which is called the protein bar. But the protein bar is actually not a healthy food. It's made from grind cockroaches, which serves as the food to be fed by the ruling class to the lower class, so that they can live. And also, their conformity to the law serves as a payment for also their survival. And also for the movie In Time, here the people live here in the movie. There is a time in every race, in every person, which serves as their lifespan. Here, the rich people or the upper class have long time, while the lower class have a short time. And also, the upper class increases the price amount of every services or every product in order for the lower class not to be provided, especially when it comes buying the timepiece in order for them to gain another lifespan, in which the possible consequences is that because of the huge price increase, many of the lower class will die, and also the population will be lessened. But since the lower class will die, the remaining time that they have will be used by the upper class in order for them to gain, etc. In which is the reason why the rich people live longer and while the poor live shorter. And also for the last part, their main common denominator is the dictatorship of the proletariat. Here in the dictatorship of the proletariat, the state apparatus used by the bourgeois to use as an oppression, exploitation to the lower class will now be used by the proletariat or the lower class in order to oppress the bourgeois. So here in the movie Elysium, Max and Spider had the system of the Elysium, especially the medical healthcare, in order for them to gain access to them, so that the people on earth will be able to live longer, and also to cure the gruesome diseases of humanity. And also in the Snowpiercer, the dictatorship or the movement represent is that because of the oppression, it serves as a wake-up call, especially to Curtis, to go to the first part of the train in order to get or to control the perpetual motion, which is the main gear or mechanism of the train. Once he controls the perpetual motion, he will now have the power. But in the ending, he is able to get perpetual motion, and also he also killed the main antagonist of the film, who is Wilford. But uh, the his success was a very tragic ending because of the improvised explosion wherein it caused a huge avalanche which created the train to be obliterated, and also it also obliterated the class systems and even the oppression and exploitation and degradation in that train. And also in time here, the dictatorship here is that will kidnap Cynthia, who is the daughter of the wealthy young man, the wealthy person who owns the vault of the time. And also, once he kidnapped Cynthia noticed the situation in the people in Dayton, especially that many people died because of the price index, especially in terms of the time. And and their way of revolution is that they created or they kept steal times from banks and even malls and give it to the people of Dayton in order for them to live longer. So to sum it up, the lower class lives comfortably because of their richness, while the lower class lives with everyday struggles because of the bourgeois preferred system. That's all, and thank you.